Hey everyone, this is this is Rob, doing a bit of a solo podcast, I guess. Not sure how to really describe it, but it's the Persona 25th anniversary today, so I figured I would record a video about it. I wanted to do something written originally, and I wrote so much that I was just kind of like, it's too much text and I don't want to waste people's time, but maybe in like a video form it's a little easier to digest it all, and just, you know, you can have it on in the background or something to listen to. But what is this video? By the title and the thumbnail you can see I just kind of wanted to talk about a series that means a lot to me. It is it's the reason I'm still here today, honestly. Persona got me out of a very dark time in my life, and it's been helping me along ever since. And I thought, you know, to commemorate it all, and just I'd talk about, you know, my personal journey through the series. There's not going to be any big plot spoilers or anything like that. I might talk about early game spoilers, but it's nothing like, you know, any of the bad guys or any of the late game dungeons or anything like that, right? It's going to be mostly spoiler free. I will talk about a couple things in specific games when we get to them, but I'll kind of give a heads up, or, you know, if I feel what I'm referencing isn't super vital, then I'll let you know. But newcomers, fans alike, you can all listen to this, have a good time, hopefully. So, I guess we can start where I started with the series. May 18th, 2010. That is a very specific date, I know. And Rob, why would you remember that? That was the day I was given a copy of Persona 4. At the time, I was playing through Final Fantasy VII, a game I had attempted to play through many, many times over the years, and never quite got through. But I was playing at my grandparents' house on my PS2, and I have a cousin from Italy who's visiting at the time. You know, he came down and he's like, "Oh, you know, Rabbi, what are you playing?" And I'm like, "Oh, this is Final Fantasy VII. It's an RPG, you know, like turn-based combat and all this, right? It's a big story-driven game." He's like, "Oh, that's cool. That's cool." And you know, he just kind of sits and watches for a few minutes, and then, you know, he gets up to do some stuff, you know. And he comes back a little bit later, and him and my uncle had went to GameStop and told the guy, "Hey, you know, for this game system, you know, what are some games that, you know, someone would enjoy?" And whoever that clerk was, you changed my life. Just I want to let you know, you are amazing. Because it's still a funny story to this day. I got two games. My cousin got me Persona 4 for the PS2, and then also I got Kingdom Hearts Re-Chain of Memories. And if you know anything about the Kingdom Hearts series, that's a terrible game to start with. Like a straight up not a good game to start with, right? But I got Persona 4, right? So, at the time, I didn't know anything about either series. I knew of Kingdom Hearts. I played a small snippet of it before, but I didn't have much knowledge, but I knew of it. Persona I'd straight up never heard of, ever. And to put into perspective what kind of gaming I was into at the time, I've always been fairly diverse in the kind of games I play, but at that specific moment in my life, I was very much into the Wii and 360. Those were my games. If it wasn't a first-party Nintendo game, it was Call of Duty with my friends, or Halo 3, you know, something like that. Banjo Nuts and Bolts, I think, came out like a couple years prior, right? Those were the kind of games I was playing, and almost nothing else. I had played a few RPGs at that point. You know, I mentioned I did try to play Final Fantasy VII a few times, but the only RPGs I had beaten were Pokemon games, Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn on the Wii, and Final Fantasy X. Those were... Oh, and 13. And Final Fantasy 13. Those were the only games I had beaten up to this point. In the greater RPG genre. I'm sure there's one or two I'm missing, but for the most part, that's kind of where I'm at, right? So, I go home that night, and I'm like, you know what? I've heard of Kingdom Hearts, let's give this a shot, right? And I'm playing through it, Rechain of Memory specifically, and I'm like, wow, I hate this. I never want to touch this again. This is... I did not have fun. I don't like the card battle system. I think it's very bad. But, you know, this isn't about Kingdom Hearts, right? I bounced off it super hard. It was not for me. I eventually tried playing through the games, and I still don't like them, but I did play proper Kingdom Hearts games later, and... Well, I actually beat them, I should say, so, you know, eventually I played through it. But, then I got Persona 4, right? And I'm still in high school at the time. We hadn't hit summer break just yet. And I'm playing through Persona 4 now. And again, just to emphasize, my gaming experience was, you know, first-party Nintendo and whatever shooter game was big on the 360 at the time. So, I didn't play a lot of quote-unquote anime games, right? Anime honestly wasn't even something I was really into at the time. I had watched Toonami back in the day, you know, Dragon Ball, Pokemon, you know, kind of the big names, but like in terms of like deeper anime connections, I had very little experience in, right? So I'm playing through Persona 4, and for those who know Persona 4, you know that the opening like 5 hours is very slow, lots of dialogue, very next to no gameplay. It is mostly like world building and character introductions, which, you know, objectively speaking is probably not a good thing, but it is all very important for the story of Persona 4 and, you know, establishing the world of Inaba, where Persona 4 takes place, right? So, but, you know, 2010 Rob didn't care about things like game design or storytelling. What the fuck are those, right? He was bored out of his mind. He was like, oh god, there's just so much talking, and these characters' voices are so obnoxious and overdone. And, you know, I get to the tutorial fight, and I'm like, why the fuck does the music... Why is the battle theme... It has lyrics? Like, what is this? This is cheesy and stupid. And I text my high school friend Tevin, miss you, bud. We don't talk anymore, but you were cool. I text him and I'm like, dude, have you ever heard of Persona? Like, what the fuck am I playing? And he's like, oh yeah, I've played Persona 4. It's great. And I was like, I don't know what game you're playing, man, because like it's all anime and it's all like bright poppy music, and I don't know. I'm not jiving with this. He's like, yeah, I feel you. Like, you know, it's very different from Final Fantasy, Fire Emblem, etc. It's going to be a different kind of experience, right? And I'm like, yeah, I guess. I don't know. I tried to push through it, and I got to the end of the first dungeon, and I beat the boss, and at that point the game kind of opens up a little bit, right? Like, that's the point where you can start doing all the social stuff and everything, right? But I didn't play that. I just beat the boss, and then, you know, once the game gave me a chance to save, I saved, and I stopped playing. I was like, I'm good. I did that in about like a weekend, I want to say, right? So we're still in mid-May at this point. And I went and played other stuff, my usual, what I established earlier, right? And summer break comes around, and in the US, summer break is almost 3 months. So you have a lot of time to kill in the summertime. And, you know, around late June, I want to say, I'm just like, you know what, like, I was kind of harsh on it, but maybe I should try and get back into it. So I pick up Persona 4 again, and I don't know what clicked, but something about something about it just really, something about that game just really clicked with me, right? And I beat the whole game in a week. I played through that 80-hour story in the span of a week. I don't know what it was. I don't know what changed, because I just fell in love. I couldn't believe how amazing this was. This was new to me. Like, a lot of people back in the day are like, oh, Chrono Trigger did this for the Super Nintendo, and oh, Final Fantasy VII did it for the PS1. For me, that was Persona 4 is that. That was the game that told me, you know, games can be more than just plumbers, princesses, and shooting guys. Games can be characters. Games can have heart. They can have writing. They can have a deeper connection to the player outside of tactile input, right? Like, hitting a button and jumping is like cool and all, but it's not the same when you actually care about the person you're interacting with, right? It was a totally different experience for me, and it was super eye-opening. And at that point, like, I was like, oh man, I gotta play more of it. I need more of it. Like, this is the fourth one. What happened to the other ones? I need to play those. And on top of that, I was like, you know what? Like, if Persona 4 is quote-unquote anime, what other kinds of anime are there? How much anime is there to give me all of it, right? and that's when I discovered the anime Clannad, and I fell in love again. I was like, holy shit, you can knock it out of the park again. Like, and then I fell into a spiral where it was Lucky Star and Canon and like all the, like, I ate so much anime. It was so much anime. But, you know, like, bring it back to Persona, right? I was like, okay, I need to play more of these games, but I'm a high school student without a job. How am I going to get these games? I don't want to ask my parents for money. I started watching Let's Plays, specifically without commentary. I didn't watch any specific YouTuber or anything like that, because at this time, YouTubers weren't. They were starting to become a thing, right? But like, not to the degree that we know of today, right? So I looked up Persona 3 FES. Persona 3, for those who don't know, came out in 2006. 2 years later, got like an updated re-release that included like quality of life and new story content, stuff like that, right? To compare it to a more modern sense, it's what Persona 5 is to Persona 3, what Persona 3 FES is to Persona 5 Royal. It's the same idea. It's same game, but bigger and better. That's the idea, right? And I started watching a Let's Play of it, and I didn't get very far, but I watched a ton of it, and I was like, yo, like, I love the storytelling here too. This is great. Like, it's a totally different vibe, which I appreciate, right? But it's still got, like, it's character driven. It does its own things. It's super unique. And and then my senior year started, and you know, my senior year I was like, you know what, I got to be more social. I got to put myself out there, and I did. I got a lot of friends senior year. I got my first girlfriend at the time, right? We're friends now, but like she's cool, but like, you know, at the time we did date for a bit, my senior year at least, but you know, I shared Persona with her, right? That was my, like, look at this cool thing, and I get to share it with someone, right? Like, and then I didn't play any of the other games because I just didn't have access to them, right? Well, what was a way I could get access to them? And in the second half of my senior year, that was the PSP. My parents gave me like a couple $100s, and they're like, hey, put this in your savings account, because this is going towards your college fund. And I'm mischievous, stupid high school student. I'm like, screw that, I'm going to GameStop. So I went to GameStop and I bought a PSP, a ton of PSN credit, and like a couple of those memory cards that they have for storing data and stuff like that. And when I went home, I set up my PSP and everything, downloaded all my games. I got, the Dissidia Final Fantasy games. I got Persona 3 Portable, Persona 3 PSP, and and a ton of like PlayStation Classics that I missed out on, right? I was super jazzed, right? And I played through Persona 3 Portable. And for those who don't know, so Persona 3 FES had a mode called The Journey. The Journey was just the regular Persona 3 story with all those quality of life improvements I mentioned. And then they had a news story called The Answer. And The Answer was more gameplay focused, but I'm not going to spoil anything, like I said, but The Journey does have, a couple of unanswered questions. And The Answer answers those, obviously. But Persona 3 Portable was weird in that they took The Journey, but they didn't bring over The Answer. So you don't get any of those extra story beats, but you get an improved version gameplay-wise of the Persona 3 story in a much more portable form factor. It plays more like when you're hanging out with friends and stuff like that, it's more like a visual novel, while the dungeon stuff is still like 3D, and it has they updated the combat system to be more like Persona 4, so it flows a little nicer, and you have control of your party members now, which is something, weirdly enough, was not in Persona 3 or Persona 3 FES. You didn't have direct control of your party members. You could only control kind of their AI. You could say, oh, I want you to focus on healing. I want you to focus on knocking down enemies. Stuff like this, right? And I'll be real, I don't like the idea that I don't have direct control. As a heads up, I do eventually play Persona 3 FES, but that's not for a very long time from now. And even then, I still don't like the idea that I don't have control of the party members, because it doesn't jive with me, right? But it's a cool idea of like having AI or individually personalized characters kind of thing, right? But for me, it didn't jive well. But I played through Persona 3 Portable as the male protagonist, and then I played through it as the female protagonist, and that was Persona 3 Portable's big push, is that not only did they introduce a female option, but the female option has mostly unique social links. So the hanging out with friends and all that stuff, the female protagonist has mostly unique social links she can do. So even if you've already played Persona 3 before, you have a brand new set of stories you can interact with and have fun with, right? And that was so cool to me, because I was like, oh man, like, it's not even just like, oh, I'm a male, I want to play as the male, or I'm female, I want to play as female. You get both, because like it incentivizes you to play both, because you get more story, you get more game out of it, right? And for the most part, it's still the same game. Like, the actual narrative of the game is still, Persona 3, The Journey, right? But it's all the interactions in between that totally like feel like a new experience, and there's new music and everything too. It was a super cool thing, right? And then I also bought a copy of the PSP remake of Persona 1, and I knew that Persona 1, Persona 2 Innocent Sin, and Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, gameplay-wise, were very different games. I knew Persona 3 was a big departure from the series. Persona 1, 2 Innocent Sin, and 2 Eternal Punishment do not have like the social system, like gameplay loop that the modern games do. Which, you know, I'll talk more about each of those individual games as we go on. But for Persona PSP in particular, I started playing it and I wasn't feeling it. It felt really difficult. The encounter rate was super high. There was a lot of grinding in it, and the soundtrack, I think, in Persona PSP is good, but I don't think it fits the vibe of the game, right? Like it didn't really jive with me, you know. And I gave it an honest attempt, but eventually I put it down. I didn't get super far in the game. I only played for about maybe 6 hours maybe. But I really wasn't feeling it. And Persona PSP, for those that don't know, is a much shorter game. It is nowhere near the 80 hours you'll need for Persona 3, 4, or over 100 that you'll need for Persona 5. It's nowhere near that. But anyway, I did eventually put that one down. I wasn't feeling it, but I thought, you know, there's got to be a way for me to experience, because I'm someone who likes chronology in their video games. I knew Persona 2, there's 2 games. There's Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which you can think of like as part 1, and then Persona 2 Eternal Punishment, which is part 2. So, and those are each different games. Like, it's not 2 part 1, 2 part 2. It's literally 2 and then a sequel to 2. Like, that's what it is. If you get what I'm saying. So I looked up a Let's Play of Persona 2 Innocent Sin for the PS1. And I know fans are saying, well, how did you do that? The game is Japanese. No, because we never got it in the West originally. There was a fan translation. So I watched a Let's Play of the fan translation, and I didn't get very far in the Let's Play because I think I lost interest because I wasn't actually playing the game itself. But I got up to the beginning clock tower boss. The first boss in the game is the principal of the school, I believe. That's not a spoiler. It doesn't matter too much. It's literally your first boss fight. And I got to that, so like I said, not a lot of experience, but I was like, damn, I wish I could play this, right? And, you know, I in this whole time, I'm still chipping away through Persona 4 again. Like, I replayed that so much, right? But eventually, when school came around again, I had a friend in gym class who was into, you know, like anime and all this stuff, right? And she's like, oh, I have a copy of Persona 3 FES. And I was like, oh my fucking god, can I borrow that? She's like, you can just have it for free. And I was like, fuck yeah. So over the summer, I played The Answer, because I had already played through the journey via Persona 3 Portable, right? So I played through The Answer, because the game actually lets you choose which one, which is super cool, right? And I got all those extra story bits, no spoilers. But overall, right, like, The Answer doesn't have the social stuff. It's mostly just grinding a dungeon over and over with intermittent sequences of story. So it's not something you should marathon, because it will get very boring very quickly. But if you chip away at it like an hour or two every session or so, it's very fun, right? And I think the story and the answers they provide are super good. They introduce new music specific to The Answer, and I love the new music. For fans of the series, if you're not a fan, just beware of comment sections. But Persona 3 FES Heartful Cry, that is one of my favorite Persona songs. It's in my top 5. Everyone knows, who knows the soundtrack knows that song. It's a great song, right? But after that, I was kind of stuck with, after Persona 3 FES The Answer, I had played everything available to me, right? I didn't really want to play through Persona PSP again, and, you know, I can play Persona 4 1,000 times, but I'm still playing Persona 4 1,000 times, right? And then Atlas announces Catherine. And they're like, hey, the Persona studio is making their first HD game. And I'm like, oh shit, what? And they're like, and just, I always saw Catherine as like testing ground, right? Like we have an engine, we have an idea, but it's not really Persona, so we're gonna see if this works, right? And Catherine comes out, and my friends and I went ham on that game. So we had like a big like social thing gathering, right? Where we spent like it was like a couple days before I went to college, and they were all a year younger than me, so you know we wouldn't see each other as much anymore, right? So to celebrate, we were just like, let's see how many games we can beat in 24 hours. It's going to be super cool. We played through Luigi's Mansion and Sonic Colors and like Donkey Kong Country and all this stuff. And on the second, like leading into the second day of this like marathon, Catherine came out. So me and my then girlfriend went to GameStop, picked up my copy of Catherine, came back, and we played through literally the entire game in one sitting. Excuse me. Up to the penultimate final boss, right? And it was super great. We all had a great time with it. Nowadays, looking back on it, much like Persona 4, there's a lot of problematic elements in Catherine that I'm not super fond of, and it's kind of why I've not revisited Catherine ever since. I do own Full Body, but I got it on like sale for like $20. Like I didn't, because I figure I'm gonna play it again at some point. But for anyone who knows, there's a character in the game who is a trans woman. Her name is Erica. Not super well represented in the original game, and in the Japanese manual, I believe she's dead named as well. It's not a great vibe, right? And I'm sorry to bring this whole video down by mentioning it, but it's kind of why I've not revisited Catherine since, because even though I enjoy the game and the storytelling, there's that small little thing that's just always going to bother me, and it makes it hard to go back to, right? But after Catherine came out, Atlus did the unthinkable, right? They released Persona 2 Innocent Sin on PSP. But unfortunately, they released it at a time when I started getting into the Tales of series. So I was going ham on the Tales series at this point. I bought Persona 2 Innocent Sin and then just forgot about it. I didn't even play it. I didn't boot it up. I maybe played... You know what? I lie. I might have played like an hour, and then I stopped for whatever reason. But for anyone who's curious, the reason we didn't get Persona 2 Innocent Sin, or what people believe is the reason we didn't get Innocent Sin, I guess okay, so this is a spoiler for the main character, but it's not major story beats, and it is a spoiler for one of the late game bosses, but that late game boss doesn't really matter in the grand context of the story. So just be aware that what I'm spoiling is not vital to the overall experience of Persona 2 Innocent Sin. Anyway, many people believe the reason we didn't get Persona 2 Innocent Sin until the PSP version was because the main character is bisexual, and you can initiate a romance with another male character. In the late 90s, early 2000s, that was a much different time where something like that would have not been super great for publishers to put in their games, which is unfortunate, right? But the bigger reason, honestly, is probably because one of the late game bosses is Hitler. Yes, like Third Reich, World War II Hitler. And you might be wondering, what the fuck? How does that work? Like, I thought the Persona games were modern, like, Hitler died quite a while ago, you know? And so the idea behind it is that in this boss fight, you're actually fighting a demon, and the demon's physical form takes shape of whatever the viewer sees as most evil. So the party sees, you know, someone like Hitler as the most evil entity they can, right? Is that a great reason to include it? Not really. But he's not depicted in a good light, and you beat the shit out of him in one boss fight. That's it. So it's not a great look, but those are probably the two reasons we never got the game originally. In the PSP version, they keep the romance intact, so that is something the player can go for. And then with Hitler, they gave him a trench coat, I want to say, and like sunglasses, and they renamed him to Führer. So it's very obvious who it is, but it's not Hitler, you know? Like, oh, this is a different character now. And that's a change they made across the board. In Japan, in America, and Europe, everywhere got this change. It wasn't just like censorship. It wasn't anything like that. They legit, I maybe someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe there's actually like, not laws, but like sort of guidelines saying you can't really show this stuff in media anymore, specifically anything Nazi related, like overtly Nazi related. So they probably were like, yeah, let's cover that guy up a little bit, you know. But so anyway, that there's your little history lesson on that for you. So I bought the game, only played about an hour of it, kind of moved on. Not that I didn't like it. Like I said, I was just getting into the Tales series with Tales of Vesperia, Tales of the Abyss, and I want to say it was the 360 version for Vesperia, obviously, because that was the only one we had at the time. And then I played Tales of Abyss on PS2, and that was super great. And then I bought it on 3DS, and while not as good, I think is the better version of the two, if only because I like the they made small changes to the voices so they aren't super sped up anymore, and I really appreciate that. But anyway, not the topic of the video. So I skipped on Persona 2 PSP, and at this point, Persona was getting big for Atlas. It was already like kind of big, like, you know, because there was, you know, the Persona like anime oh my god, I totally forgot about they made Persona Trinity Soul, which is one of the anime I watched after Persona 4, right? Or after I beat Persona 3 Portable, I found out about Trinity Soul. And Trinity Soul, to keep it short, is a really bad series. It was meant to be like a pseudo sequel to Persona 3, but only one of the characters from the game show up, and he's not super important. But Trinity Soul in general is very, like, it's one of those experiences that it tries to be smart, but it's just saying a bunch of words that don't mean anything smart, you know? It's just trying to look and sound cool. I will say the opening songs are great, if you can find them, because I believe it's like Sony Music or whoever knocks them down on YouTube all the time for some reason. But the opening song is the best part of that show. You don't need to watch it otherwise. It's not good. Atlas used to be kind of like cool with Trinity Soul, and then eventually they kind of realized, oh wait, no one liked it, we should stop. And then they did, right? But leading into anime, in 2011, they started airing Persona 4 The Animation. And Persona 4 The Animation, like the lead up to it was super great. Like they were doing teaser videos where like every couple weeks or every week? Yeah, once a week or something like that. They would air a midnight channel broadcast, and it was like a small clip of the show, but it was like obscured by static and stuff like that. It was really cool advertising if you were a fan of Persona 4, right? Like this was like, it was basically just an adaptation of the game, but the big draw was that they actually gave the main character like a name character development and like, you know, like it's the full story more or less, right? And honestly, like, I know I have my bias. I love Persona 4 to death. It's my favorite game of all time and will never not be my favorite game of all time. But like, Persona 4 the animation is legitimately like a great show. And for anyone who cannot experience the story of Persona 4, I honestly think the animation is your next best thing. Because you're going to get all the major story beats, and then they're also going to add extra like bits to the main character. Like, it adds just enough to be unique, and at the same time like incorporates a lot of the gameplay stuff in like a really kind of cool storytelling way. Like, it's hard to explain, but like, I watched Persona 4 the animation as it was airing. Eventually, you know, they announced a dub for it, and I was like, yes, like, thank you, like, and they announced, like, so this was at a weird time, right? It's now like 4 years after Persona 4 had come out. Atlas was going ham on Persona 4. They had the animation announced, they had Persona 4 Arena announced, which was a fighting game sequel, and then they also had Persona 4 Golden announced, which was the expanded re-release of Persona 4, right? So what Persona 3 FES or FES was to Persona 3, Persona 4 Golden is to Persona 4. They had all of these coming down the pipeline, right? 2012 was like the best year to be a Persona 4 fan, because I got not only like late 2011, early 2012 was like where the anime was popular, right? And then I got Persona 4 Arena in the middle of the year, right? And like Persona 4 Arena, I'm gonna be real, I don't like fighting games like traditional ones, right? I'll play Smash and stuff, but like I'm really bad at Street Fighter, BlazBlue, etc., right? And the idea of a fighting game sequel didn't jive with me super well, but they told fans the story is a sequel and it's written by the Persona 4 writers. And I'm like, okay, you know what? That's pretty good. Like, okay, that's enough. I got it. So I picked it up on 360 and I went so ham on that game. So the group of friends I had for that gaming marathon before I went to college, it was summer break for me at this point. So I came back from college and we played through like a decent chunk of Persona 4 Arena's story together. And then, you know, we enjoyed that, and I gotta say, like, I was super jazzed by the story because they set up a lot of cool, like, things in Persona 4 Arena that sort of like tie the whole series, or could tie the whole series together. I had like a whole fan theory written out. I think it's lost to time, but like Persona 1, Persona 2 Innocent Sin, Persona 2 Eternal Punishment are sort of, they're not in a different universe, but they are sort of self-contained. And then Persona 3 references those games a lot, and even like directly connects to Persona 1 in a small but specific way. But after that, they just stopped referencing Persona 1, 2 Innocent Sin, and 2 Eternal Punishment, right? And there's a reason I'm not talking about Eternal Punishment, but I'll get to that. Starting with Persona 4, they just stopped referencing the earlier games, right? But Persona 4 Arena was setting up for this really cool idea that they are all connected now. And I was like, oh my god, this is going to be so sick. Like, if they do a sequel to this, they could really, like, truly tie all this together, and it could be a really epic story, right? But, you know, I'll get to the sequel when we get to the sequel, because fans know that sequel story is not what was the payoff, right? Or the setup, right? It didn't pay off. So, Persona 4 Golden comes out. And later in that year, right? And not only was I super jazzed for that, right? I literally bought a Vita just to play Persona 4 Golden. But on top of that, we had PlayStation All-Stars come out the exact same day. So, you know I was jazzed for that because I love my Smash games. And, you know, I know that people don't like the roster or the gameplay, but, like, PS All-Stars was kind of tight, you know? If you got a group of 4 friends together, that was a tight game. And lucky for me, there were people at my college I could play with. So, you know, I got Persona 4 Golden and PlayStation All-Stars, and I played both of those ad nauseum. If I wasn't playing Persona 4 Golden, I was literally asleep. Like that was how much time I spent on Persona 4 Golden. I adore that game to death. If I can give you an idea of how much time I've spent playing Persona 4 and Persona 4 Golden combined, I've probably clocked in at least 7,000 hours. That is how much time I've unironically played those games combined. I know that's like, Rob, like, I think you have a problem, but like, I can't really explain how much those games mean to me. So like, when Persona 4 Golden came out, it was just bigger and better Persona 4. And a lot of the quality of life stuff they introduced in Persona 4 Golden carried over to Persona 5 later. Like this was like them sort of teasing mechanics that they were, you know, working on, right? Like it was just such a cool thing. And like Persona 4 the animation, Arena, and Golden was the start of them using a new I say new voice cast, but it was mostly the same voice cast with a couple exceptions, right? So the big ones are Teddy and Chie. Those are the 2 characters from Persona 4 that got voice overhauls. So the original actress for Chie, I believe her name is like Tracy. I loved her in Persona 4, but as far as I know, she mostly just does commercial work. She doesn't really do like gaming and stuff like that. I think her only game voice credit is Chie in the vanilla Persona 4. But when Persona 4 Golden, the animation, and Persona 4 Arena were all getting dubbed, they switched to Erin Fitzgerald, who is she's known for her voice as Naz from Ed, Edd n Eddy and like a couple other things. Like I guarantee if you look up Erin Fitzgerald, you've heard her before. And a lot of people are like, oh, I prefer one over the other. I don't care. I like them both. I think Erin fits better because she has a lot more energy. She's more spunky. Like her voice fits for me, and I enjoy it, right? Teddy, I thought, sounded fine before and after. I don't really feel one way or the other about Teddy when it comes to his voice. They switched from Dave Wittenberg, the voice of Kefka from the Dissidia Final Fantasy games, and now he's voiced by Sam Riegel, the voice of Phoenix Wright in the video games. Specifically, I have to clarify the video games, because Phoenix Wright in the anime is a different voice actor, who also does a fine job, but not the same guy. So, I've put so much time into, like, Persona 4, like, I know that game like the back of my hand. It is, like, crazy how much I enjoyed that game. And I still play it to this day, all the time. I'm always trying to share that game with friends. I'll talk about it more later, but it coming to PC was the worst thing that could ever happen to my wallet because of how many times I bought that game for friends and given away like codes for it and stuff like that. Like, it's a phenomenal game that I love and everyone should play, or at least try. You can't, Persona 4 the animation is there, which covers all the important story bits. Golden does have a few extra things, but it's, for the most part, the same game. Or same story, excuse me. And to continue on, Persona Q comes out for 3DS, and I never finished it up front, I'm gonna say that. I got like halfway through it, and I was kind of bored of the whole system. Like, the Etrian Odyssey gameplay really doesn't do it for me, but the combination of having the Persona 3 cast interacting with the Persona 4 cast, it was just so cool, and I had a ton of fun just like seeing them talk and go back and forth, and like all the inside jokes that fans would get, right? Like, it was just such a good time. But I never finished it because I just didn't enjoy the gameplay much, right? And that's fine. I kind of bounced off it. I'll go back to it someday, probably. But at this point, I'm like, you know what? Like, there's nothing really coming up for Persona games that I'm like super interested in or is available now. Oh, but wait a minute. I bought Innocent Sin on PSP. Why don't I actually sit down and play it? And so, on a trip that me and my family took to Italy, I spent any free time I had playing Persona 2 Innocent Sin. And it's now my second favorite game in the series. To give you an idea of how much I enjoyed that. Like, it's a bit like my love for Sonic games. Like, I love Adventure 2 and all that, but like Mania is my favorite, even though I only grew up with Sonic 1 originally, right? But like, I had every little, like, I'm a fan who spans both quote-unquote classic and modern, so to speak, and that applies to Persona. I love Innocent Sin. Innocent Sin is so fucking good. The characters, the music, the story, it's firing on all cylinders, and it's great. And I had an absolutely wonderful time with that. And I guess I can take this chance to talk about Eternal Punishment. So, with Eternal Punishment, right, that was also a PS1 game version. We did get that one. But the problem is, when the original Revelations Persona on PS1 was released, they heavily Americanized it. So they changed all the characters, like visually, their names, and the general translation was very spotty at best, right? And when I say spotty at best, I'm like being extremely generous there. It was not a good translation. But for the most part, the story was fine. It was just very janky, right? So when we missed out on Persona 2 Innocent Sin, we got Persona 2 Eternal Punishment. So we got the sequel, which is sort of playable as its own game, but like it really enhances from what I understand, it really enhances the experience to play Innocent Sin first, right? But the thing was, I didn't want to play Eternal Punishment because we haven't gotten the PSP version of the game. And well, Rob, why don't you just play the PS1 version? It's in English, and they didn't fuck up that one, did they? Well, you're right, they didn't mess it up, but so, as a non-spoiler, characters from Revelations Persona do show up, and they use, like, half Americanized names, half Japanese names. It's very strange. And it's honestly something I'm not super interested in dealing with. I want it all to be consistently like one or the other. Like, if all the games were Americanized, then I wouldn't want to play. I would want to play them like that. But if they were intended to be Japanese, then like I want them to be that. If you get what I'm saying, right? So I don't want to play Innocent Sin PSP where everyone has the Japanese names, and then I play the PS1 sequel where all the names are kind of half and half. It's very weird. I know I'm nitpicky, but you know, there's a fan translation of Eternal Punishment on PSP that is coming out eventually. I believe they said, you know, the actual text has been fully done. They're working on implementing all of it, which they're not close, quote unquote, but they are mostly done with it, and I'm excited to see where that goes, right? So I'm excited to play that and actually get the full experience. But anyway, at this point I'm just rambling about the series, and I hope this is entertaining. If you've gotten to this point in the video, like, put a comment down on like the timestamp and just be like, Rob, I'm listening. you're cool. Like, I'm cool. Like, everyone's cool, right? Like, oh, because there's a lot left. I have my notes here, and there's a lot of video game left, so I hope you're ready to strap in, because there's a lot more to come. So, after Persona 2 Innocent Sin, and I come back from vacation, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax comes out, and it's not just an expanded version of the original game, it's literally the original game and a sequel combined in one. Like, it is the full package, right? And Arena Ultimax comes with its own story as well. And this is the part that really upset me. I played through Arena Ultimax's story, going into it like, okay, Arena set up a ton of cool stuff that could really pay off, and like it connects the whole series together in a really unique and interesting way. And it's some jargon about some shonen anime protag who like dealt with some bad guys, and now he was the cause of all the. It's a stupid story. I really hate, story-wise, I really hate Arena Ultimax. But like, God, the amount of multiplayer fun I had with Arena Ultimax specifically is unrivaled. That game is so much fun because of how much deeper and more interesting all the movesets and stuff are. Like, they added all new playable characters. Previously, there are characters in the series that didn't have personas that were combat focused, but now they gave them combat movesets and stuff like that. So it's like super cool, and like I love how flashy it is, and the music. Oh my God, the music! My ringtone for my phone, obviously, is the look it up on YouTube. Electronica in the Velvet Room, which is from an album for Persona 4. It was part of the official soundtrack, but in the Arena games, they use it as like the menu theme. So it's a remix of the Velvet Room theme, which is super, super cool, and like a really great way for them to tie in the Velvet Room without, you can't really do fusions and stuff in a fighting game. That's like really weird, right? That would be like incredibly janky and not fun, it sounds, right? But like the music is so on point. I love all the remixes. You know what? That kind of leads into the next game. If we're talking about music and stuff, the next game would be Persona 4 Dancing All Night for Vita. And that's actually a game I've never played. I've never looked up a Let's Play. Because I don't like it. Even if I didn't like fighting games, there's at least like I can get through the game by kind of mashing, because I'm bad. I'm not good at them, right? But rhythm games, I am trash at. I am awful at rhythm games. I had no interest in picking up Dancing All Night, and story-wise, it's the latest in the timeline of Persona 4 games. So I was like, you know what? I'll just miss out on that. Probably not a lot going on anyway, right? But I guess I could take the chance to talk about the music in the series, right? It's like, you've been listening to the music in the background as I talk about the different games here, right? Because I edit them all in. But, like, I can't... The fact they were able to get a rhythm game out of Persona 4 Dancing, or the Persona series, is, like, astounding, right? Because, like, I know they have, like, what, DDR Mario Mix, right? But, half of those songs are public domain, generic, like, Mozart, right? And, like, they're all good, but, like, I want to listen to, like, actual Mario jams, right? And that's what Persona 4 Dancing All Night did. They're like, oh, do you want a funky version of, Time to Make History? Do you want a cool, dope version of this or that? And I'm like, yes, let's go! Like, and so, even if I've never played the game or watched a Let's Play, I've listened to the shit out of the soundtrack. I love that soundtrack. It's great. But someday I'll play it. It's like, to skip ahead slightly, I own Persona 3, 4, and 5 Dancing. I own them all. I got them all for like $20 like a month ago. So I own them all now. I don't know if I'm ever going to play them because I'm bad at, rhythm games. but like the soundtracks are so good that like, you know what, I'll spend $20 on it and maybe I'll get some cool visuals out of it, you know? So I after Arena Ultimax, Skip Dancing, right? It was just, at this point, waiting for the next big thing. And the next big thing is something that will always stick with me. I remember distinctly, there was a Persona concert happening, and they were very, very apparent, like they made it very apparent that they were going to reveal the next Persona game, for like officially. They've teased it up to this point. We knew about the next game, but we hadn't seen anything. No footage, no gameplay, nothing. No details about the game. We had like a general vague theme of the game, like what topic the game is going to cover, right? But that was it. And I remember, I believe it was, I want to say it was Gamatsu, was like hosting like a restream of the concert. And it was like 3 in the morning for me. I was super exhausted. I was really tired. And I dozed off a couple of times during the stream. But I woke up and I see the Atlas logo. See the studio logo. Cuts to that clip of the helicopter soaring above the water towards casino, and it's the Persona 5 trailer. It's real. They're gonna show it. And then it like cuts to black, and it's the actual trailer starts, and it's just with those 3 bass notes that sent me into tears. I was so I was so overwhelmed because, you know, even if I am a big fan of Persona 4, this was the next game. They were finally not moving on, I guess, but like they are doing something new, right? And it looked so good. Like they had proper like dungeon design. They weren't procedurally generated anymore. They had, you know, all the visuals are so unique and creative and colorful, and oh my god, like who are the twins? Like, oh my god, like it takes place in a city again, and like what is, and there's like negotiations again. Like what is this? Like, and, oh my god, it was just so overwhelming. I cried to the reveal trailer of Persona 5. I could not contain myself anymore. This was the game that was finally like pushing the series forward. And many could argue like, oh, it dumbed it down or this and that. Like, hush up, get out of here. This was the next big thing for Persona, and I was so happy to finally have this, right? I was exhausted by the spin-offs of Persona 4 over and over again. Like, I was ready to move on. And it was here. Well, almost. I still had to wait like 2 more years for the game to come out, but it was happening finally, right? And like that was a huge deal for me. It was the first time a game's trailer made me cry, and I was so ecstatic for it. And then eventually, you know, time skip a little while. Like nothing really big in the Persona fandom happened until that game came out. I played through that. Absolutely adored it. Persona 5 might be like my 3rd favorite. Like if we're including Royal like together and Persona 5 together, it's like my 3rd favorite. Persona 5 on its own is like down the list more. But they they really, like, I know it's a super easy game for a lot of people, but like they really expanded all the options for the player. They added all the new things. Like confidants are so cool compared to like what, like mechanically, that so much cooler than social links in my opinion, because confidants give you abilities as you're raising them up and not just Velvet Room bonuses, you know? Like it's like a small thing, and oh my god, and this is the smallest thing in the world. No one noticed but me, but I love the fact that when Joker, the main character, has an inner monologue, he refers to himself as I. He's like, I think this, or I feel that, and it's like that. A lot of people are like, Rob, what the fuck? Why does that matter? It's like, because in Persona 3 and 4, it was always, you feel this, and you feel that. And it's like, I don't feel this, I don't feel that. I'm not, don't force these emotions on me, I'm not that. But when Joker says, he feels more like a character, right? And he actually fucking talks. Not a lot, but, you know, he talks every now and then. And I love to see that. Like, if I can go on, like, a minor tangent, I've hated silent protagonists for forever. I've always hated them. Is it enough to ruin the experience for me? No, obviously not. Persona 4 would not be my favorite game of all time if that ruined it. If being silent ruined it, right? But Joker chimes in every now and then. He's got he's got maybe no more than 10 lines of spoken dialogue in the 100-hour adventure, right? But it matters so much. It's cool. Like, I always appreciate it more. So, you know, people always make the joke about, like, oh, Pokemon Sun and Moon, your character just stands there and makes that derpy smile expression when, you know, shit's going down, and, like, I don't know, like, I wish I understood it, right? Like, and Dragon Quest XI, same thing, like, there, like, really scary, awful things happen to the main character and those who are close to him in the story, but the whole time he's just like, oh, Harumph. He makes, like, emoji faces, and, like, that doesn't engage me. I don't find that interesting or fun, because, like, I don't feel bad because the guy he shows the same expression for when, like, he drops his wallet or something, you know? Like, I don't know, like, Persona 5 made a lot of great things, or did a lot of great things that I appreciate. And, you know, obviously I have my problems with the game, but Persona 5 was like that next big step forward, and I'm hoping, you know, they learn from, like, what works, right? Because a big problem that Persona 3, 4, and 5 had, yes, I'm actually going to criticize the games, because this is my video, not yours, is a big problem is the pacing. You know, a lot of the Persona games, they just reach a moment where just the pacing takes a nosedive, and you're just stuck in story for like 2 hours, you know? But that's the thing. Persona 3 is the least worst about it, and then Persona 4 is it's worse than 3 about it, but it's better. It's still not bad yet. But like Persona 5 and 5 Royal, they take like a nosedive in terms of pacing at the end of the game. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't ruin the game in its entirety, but like, it's something to think about, right? Like, even if these games have problems, they're still great experiences with great stories, great characters, except Mishima. Everyone agrees Mishima in Persona 5 is not good. I'm sure he's got a fan out there, and you know what? Shout out to you, fan. I'm sure you're holding up, but like, just realize Mishima's not nice. He's very egotistic. But anyway, way off track. Let's continue on, right? So after Persona 5 comes out, me and all my friends play it, and we're all super hyped about it. We love the game, right? We like I just did. We have our gripes, but we still love the game, right? And then I was like, you know what? I never played Persona 3 Fez the Journey. And the reason being is because I never wanted to do the whole AI party member thing, right? And so I looked it up, and conveniently, like a week before I looked into playing it again, I found out someone out there made like a Game Shark code to make party members controllable. And I was like, oh my god, this literally, I guess, fixes Persona 3 for me. So I got my copy of it. I ripped it, and I played it via my PC so I could get the mod, right? But, I took my old copy that I already had, right? And just converted it, more or less. And I was playing it on my PC with the mod, and I had so much fun doing it. And granted, there's still a lot of subtle differences in the mechanics, but for the most part, it was Persona 3, just I can control my party members now, and I played through the whole game like that. And it was a lot of fun. I finally played through the journey on console, without the visual novel aspects of Persona 3 Portable, and it was a great experience. I still recommend it. I think it's not as janky as people say. I think it's a really fun game. Although I will admit, if they ever bring back Persona 3, like as a definitive edition or a remake or something like that, please let me control the party members. Please. But anyway, I already, at this point, the new games that come out are Persona 3 Dancing in Moonlight and Persona 5 Dancing in Starlight. I wish Persona 4 Dancing was renamed to Dancing at Midnight, which would have been cool. But anyway, I didn't buy those games at launch. They have demos, and I played the demos, and I'm like, yep, still bad at rhythm games, so I moved on, right? But again, those remixes, pretty tight, pretty clean, liking those a lot, right? And then, I wanted to give Persona 1 another shot. I said, you know what? I'm in between jobs right now. I got some time to kill. I'm going to stream myself playing Persona PSP. But I remember hearing rumblings online that someone made a mod of the game that replaces the new soundtrack that was in Persona PSP with the old PS1 soundtrack, which is more like techno and like kind of, it's more similar to the music you would hear in Shin Megami Tensei, right? And so I was like, oh, I wonder if I could find that. I did. I ripped my copy of the game and modded it to have the music. But here's the funny thing, right? When I started streaming it, and I got farther in this game than I've ever gotten before. But the reason I got farther was because when you change the music to the old soundtrack, because like the audio files are smaller and they load faster, it cuts load times in the PSP version. So battles used to have like 3 to 4 second load times, but that's cut down to like maybe a second. And I know a lot of people are like, well, why does it matter? It's such a short time. When the encounter rate is as high as it is, you get wore down with 4 second wait times every time a battle starts up, right? So, I got really far in the game. For anyone who's played the game, I got through this like hedge maze area, and then I was in like another city, I think, and then I kind of just was like, I can't do the grinding anymore, because it was always go to a new area, grind, go to a new area, grind, and then story was sprinkled about, right? So I still haven't beaten the game, but I'm hoping someday we can get, like a PC version or something that people can mod and, make it less grindy, or, make it so you can get spell cards or what are they called? Like tarot card, arcana cards. The cards you're supposed to get via negotiation, let me get those as item drops. That would fix everything. And then I can use the negotiations to get extra cards and extra items and money and stuff like that, you know? Like, that would fix so much about the game for me. But anyway. At this point, Persona 5 Royal comes out, right? Oh, jeez. Royal is... It's one of those re-releases where it's like, you didn't realize how many problems you had with the original game until you played the expanded version of it, which cleans up so much about the game. But yeah, like, Royal comes out, me and my friends play that, and oh my god, we fall in love with it all over again. Like, we notice all these small changes to it, and we're like, geez, how did... Like, we didn't even know this stuff was a problem, or we didn't even think of them as problems until now, right? But like, Royal comes out and all my friends get hype on it, and I try to, again, it's only on PS4, which sucks because I have a lot of friends who don't have a PS4 or a 5, especially not a 5, right? But like, it's a great game, and I've been, you know, my current girlfriend, hi Jess, we've been playing through this game using the PlayStation Share Play feature. She plays it on her PS4 and streams it to my PS5, and like I just watch her play through it together. And we're on Discord, when we're on the Discord call, and we're like hanging out, and you know, I help her out with like tips, and you know, oh, this is the right answer here, this is the best answer here, and oh, for the Velvet Room stuff, like here's how you do this or that, and you know. But for the most part, it's just her playing through it and, like, you know, experiencing the game, right? But that's kind of getting ahead of myself here. I love Royal. Royal's like my third favorite in the series, right behind Persona 4/Golden, right? And then Persona 2 Innocent Sin on PSP. But then Persona 4 Golden PC comes, and I'm like, oh god, I'm doing another playthrough of this fucking game. Like, I immediately I crushed that game in like a weekend. I was like, I played through that entire thing, and I was like, yes, 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 yes. And I even, like, got a little bit into the PC modding part of it. Like, I'm in a server with a bunch of people that, you know, mod the game and stuff like that. And guys, I gotta say, if you can play it on PC, you absolutely must, because like the Persona 4 Golden on PC is already great as it is, but like all the cool little extras you can get for subsequent playthroughs are so good. New music, like model swaps, cleaning up textures, and you know, all this stuff, like it's so good, right? It's an amazing game, and it's even better on PC. Please, Atlas, release it on something else, or I'm gonna lose my goddamn mind. And now we get to Persona 5 Strikers, which, thank you, Atlas, for not calling it Scramble. I hate that name so much. It just makes me think of breakfast. I don't want to think of breakfast. I want to think of striking. It makes so much more sense. And I have my gripes with it. It's a very hand-holdy game, but Persona 5 Strikers knocks it out of the park with exactly what I wanted from Persona 5. Persona 5's big problem was, the vanilla game at least, was that you didn't get a lot of use for the late game characters. So with Strikers and Royal, you get more time with the Phantom Thieves, so you actually get to, you just get more of it. It's great. And I'm so glad they gave us that. Granted, it was an action game, it wasn't an RPG, but that's okay, because like it's a sequel spin-off thing, right? Like it's such a great way to like add to the Persona 5 experience and not just give us like Persona 5 Arena, which, don't get me wrong, Persona 5 Arena would be tight, but like Strikers was what I wanted Arena and Arena Ultimax to be, which was just more of the characters I love already, right? And they delivered on it, I feel. and I ended up playing the game on Switch. I didn't own my PS5 at the time, so I couldn't play it there. But I also bought it on PC because I know the modding scene for that is probably going to be crazy too. I haven't looked into that at all, but like I'm super jazzed to like revisit that game at some point with it, right? And that's kind of everything. I know like a lot of this later half of the video has been like a lot of rambling and a lot of, you know, just talking about nothing, but like I don't know, like I adore the Persona series. I could go on. I could literally go on for hours. Like I didn't even talk about like the gameplay mechanics or anything like that, and that's because like I don't know how to like flow with that kind of thing, you know. Like I'm just talking about my experiences, you know. Like I fell in love with turn-based combat thanks to Persona. Like it's why I'm so like upset with like, now I don't want to bring down anyone else, but like I'm upset with modern Final Fantasy because I don't want action games. I would like more turn-based RPGs from big budget publishers. There's nothing wrong with things like, there's nothing inherently wrong with having action games, but like when I see that the next big release from Final Fantasy is probably an action game, I'm not as interested anymore. I miss turn-based games that from big budgets, you know. Like you get your Dragon Quest, I guess, you get your Personas, I guess, but what else do you got? I guess Pokemon, but like Pokemon doesn't really do it for me anymore either, because you know there's a lot of problems I have with those games, you know. Like I don't know, like Persona is just, it's always there for me. It's always providing a new experience, even if it's using, you know, the same characters over and over. And currently it's the 25th anniversary of Persona, you know. Like you don't reach 25 years making garbage, you know. Like clearly something's going right if you're making all these, right? But like I don't know, Persona means the world to me. I literally wouldn't be alive today without Persona 4, because when my cousin gave me that copy of Persona 4, I didn't realize how much it would change my life, because I was in a dark place at the time. Like my parents were going through some nasty shit together, and like I just, you know, as a person, I didn't have like a lot of friends and stuff like that, you know. So it was a game I needed, and it introduced me to a whole new subset of, you know, pop culture that I wasn't a part of before. But now it's, I don't want to say it's part of me, but like it helped shape who I am today, you know. Like it just means the world to me, and I thought I hope I've done like an okay job in this video sharing, you know, how much I love and adore the characters, the story, and I mentioned the gameplay, but like I feel like all I mentioned was how sometimes it's a little janky or something like that. But like no, truly, I truly love the gameplay in all of these games. The only one withstanding is Persona PSP, the remake of the first game, right? That's the only one I'm not a hondo on. But like, I love Persona 4, I love Persona 2 Innocent Sin, I love Persona 3 Fest, I love Persona 5. Like, I love all these games. And I hope, you know, for the future, Atlus realizes that more people can love this. More people can have the same experience that I did. They play one of the games, they fall in love, and they want to play the rest. I got lucky in that I had access, I was able to get access to the other games in the series because Atlus ported them to other platforms, you know? Like, you brought it from PS1, you put it on PSP. You brought it from PS2, you put it on, you know, Vita or whatever, right? Which was at the time, the current platform, right? So like, Atlus, just help me as a fan share my love for the series with other people. It's not even about just giving me what I want, because I can experience these games anytime I want. I can find plenty of ways to play any of the games in the series, but not everyone else is as fortunate as I am. And I want to share that with others. I want people who own a Switch to be able to play games. I want people who own an Xbox to be able to play these games. I want people who own goddamn mobile phones. I don't care. I want people to play these fucking games because Persona is amazing. Persona is wonderful. All of the games are great. All of them have something unique. Revelations Persona, the original game, even if I haven't beaten it yet, I know the story for the most part, and I love how, like, sort of weird and ethereal, like, otherworldly it is. Like, it's really hard to explain, but, like, it has to do with, like, dreams and, like, other dimensions and stuff like that. It's really cool. And then Persona 2 Innocent Sin is, like, all about rumor mongers and how, like, all of a sudden rumors are becoming reality now. So people start these nasty rumors about, like, the principal's evil and he's, like, in a demonic cult and shit like that. And, like, then Persona 3, like, the whole theme of that game is, like, death, right? The overcoming and accepting death as, like, a thing. And then Persona 4 is, like, this whole murder mystery and you and your friends trying to solve it, but then there's, like, a twist where it's like there's this other world involved in it where it's, like, on the other end of a TV. It's like, what the fuck is going on there? In Persona 5, you're, like, taking over society as a group of rebels, right? And you're trying to fix collapsing society as we know it as a group of thieves. It's just, every game is so unique, so creative, and so different that no matter what game you play, you're gonna find something you like about it, no matter what, right? And I hope this video, me rambling especially, gives you an idea of what it is. If you didn't like Persona 4, try Persona 3. That story might be more up your alley. If you didn't like that, or if you didn't like that, maybe Persona 5. It's much more accessible. Maybe, like, you know, like Persona 2 Innocent Sin. It's a completely different gameplay style. Like, it doesn't play anything like the other ones, but it's still like a turn-based RPG with great characters. Like, and it's much shorter too, so it's much easier to digest, right? Like, and if none of those appeal to you, you've got dancing spin-offs, you've got fighting games, you've got, you know, warrior-like action RPGs. Like, there's so much Persona to consume that you're bound to find something you like in it, right? And I really hope this video shows how much it means to me, and it means to others, I'm sure. I'm sure any fan of the series, like, will comment below. You know what? Give me your best mistake in the comments. Any self-respecting Persona fan knows exactly what I just said. Give me that. Show me the love, show me the adoration, because I want the series to grow. I want the series to be more. I don't want new game, 1,000 spin-offs, new game, 1,000 spin-offs, new game. No, I want the series accessible. I want everyone to love it like I love it. Put every game everywhere so everyone can fall in love. Because Persona is a fantastic series, and I love it. It's as simple as that. I love it to death. And I wouldn't be where I am today without it. Thank you for listening, everyone, and have a good night.